Yes, we are able to see it.
Okay. So today we are going to just briefly talk about data science for mental health. At the end of this talk, what I would expect from you is at least to gain some understanding on the relationship between data science and other disciplines. Also, identify some of the skill sets you need to become a data scientist, and also at least have an idea of some of the tools you need for various tasks in data science. Then I'll conclude by highlighting some of the online resources you might need. And at the end of it, if we have some time, you should be able to install R and R Studio. That is, if you don't have them installed. So in terms of the outline, we'll start by a brief introduction, giving you some key insight on how the data science discipline came into being. Then we'll talk about the current landscape, what is there, what needs to be there. And then we'll look at the relationship between data science and other disciplines, then take you through a process of becoming a data scientist and how do you stand out from the rest. Then we'll conclude by looking at various data science tools. I hope up to that point we don't have any questions, and at least we have a clear picture of what we need to do and where we'll be at the end of the training. So within the slides, I'll post some questions, and way to respond to these questions, you just type this or you scan this QR code. If you have a phone, you can just scan this QR code or just type poll everywhere. Then at the end of it, just do /SYGU139. Or you can use your phone. You just text this to this particular one, but it will charge you. So you better use the browser. Once I activate the questions, you'll be able to get access to the questions, and then we do live response to various questions. So just as an introduction, for us to talk about data science, then we need to talk about data. And for us to talk about data, we need to talk about sources of data. Where we are, what we are currently doing, we are gathering data even from Zoom. We know that it collects information about the participants who attend. So we can use even just Zoom and gather some data which we can do analysis on. That's just an example. But if we take a step back, we go into different sectors, then maybe we would start by looking at healthcare. So in healthcare, we have various data sets ranging from demographic health records, or even things like smartwatches you wear nowadays have some kind of tracking devices which can help you monitor your health. So those kind of devices collect data sets which can be used for various analyses. Then we also have our phones. There is always a saying that if you talk about something so much on your phone, the next time you go to Facebook, you'll see some advert around whatever you are talking about. How true that is, I don't know, but we know that our phones collect information, and those information are data. Then for those of us who are old enough, we know things like floppy disks or hard disk, at least we know, and also cloud storage. So those are some of devices we can use to store data, and they also contain data. Then we have social media. So we know there's some analysis on X platform where you can even do predictive analysis on the kind of products you advertise on their platforms, or even Facebook or Twitter themselves. they use the data from the things you click and do some kind of analysis. So all those social media platforms generates a lot of data every second, and those data sets can be used for various purposes. Then for those who do online transactions or those who have credit cards, as you pay for your shopping or bills, there are data sets which are generated, and those data sets can be used for various purposes. We have things like streaming websites also collect a lot of data. We have platforms like the ones we are training on, education platforms. And in general, what we can say is that every day, every second, the data is generated. And if we don't think about ways to utilize this data, it is not going to stop. We have to think about better ways to utilize the data. Then for us to talk about data science, then we have to know how did it come into being. So we've talked about data, but the other aspect of data science is the emergence of new technologies. So long before, maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 10 years is soon. So let's say 20 years ago, you could not be able to maybe store 10 MB of data. My PhD supervisor used to tell me a story on how they used to queue to just analyze or run a regression table. They would queue for almost 2 months just to get a space on a computer where they would manually punch the data, and it could only store maybe up to 1 MB of data. So they would queue there for several months, just waiting for the computer, one computer in the entire university, to be free for them to run their analysis and so on. But nowadays we can even store terabytes in our phones. They are powerful phones which have up to maybe 10 terabytes of space. Some have even RAM up to 256 gigabytes. Then we also have Internet of Things. So I've talked about phones generating data, but even the devices we have in our homes nowadays, you can remotely control your washing machine or even coffee machine. But as you do that, they generate a lot of data, which you can use for the analysis. But again, what is important is the emergence of artificial intelligence, which we'll talk about in details. But for us to talk about data science, then we can't talk about it without talking about artificial intelligence. Please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. I'll just check on the chat if there are any question. Oh, so there are no questions. I'm not audible, so I'll try to be audible, but I hope I am. Okay, then for us to talk about data science, the other aspect, so apart from data sources, emerging technology, we have to talk about the big V's. So there are several V's, but the key ones we have to talk about are the first three, which are volume, velocity, and variety. When you talk about big data, then you are talking about the size of the data. The size of the data can be in terms of the number of dimensions. So how many variables do you have? Or the number of observations. So how many unique observations or rows of data do you have? Then we talk about velocity. So velocity refers to how often do you collect this data. So if it is maybe time series data, how often do this data come in? Then variety is about how different is the data set. So maybe you could be collecting data about households, you could be collecting data about individual purchase or health information about individuals. But how can you merge these different data sets maybe into one and use them into analysis? So there are other aspects of these, but the key ones are the volume, velocity, and variety. Okay. So how did data science come into being? before we talk about that, then we need to think about the data, the big data we've talked about and variety of data we've talked about. So need to process and make sense of data is one of the things which we have to think about before we even think about data science. So we've agreed that there are various data sources, there is technology, and there is big data. For us to use this data, then we have to think about data science. So data science, if it is able to integrate various different data sources. So for example, if we have data set from healthcare, we have data set from weather, can we merge all these data sets and make sense of them? Then how can we utilize various tools to either mine? So mining data just refers to how you gather data from different sources. It could be from the internet or from other sources. And how can we make sense or generate insights in terms of analytics, visualizations from these data sets? But at the end of it, what you want to achieve is to help businesses or help institutions or help government institutions make policies which can help them either increase profits or improve livelihoods of those who are affected by the data sets. So the key reason why we need data science is to be able to extract insights from the data, which can help us solve various world problems. So it could be we want to predict disease outbreak, or we want to come up with interventions based on data, or we even just want to visualize data and inform people based on our visualizations. So what is data science? But before we talk about data science, then we have to think about the power of data. So data has the power to improve business if effectively utilized. If you properly analyze your data and you have the right model, you have the right tools, you can be able to inform businesses or even guide them on how to improve their efficiency for optimal profit. Then we know that data has patterns. We can't see them by just looking at rows and columns of data sets. But if we use data science tools, we can see hidden insights from the data sets. And also, if we have efficient techniques and tools needed to uncover hidden insights, we can be able to generate information which is key to institutions and businesses. So in brief, just to define what data science is a field that uses domain knowledge, statistical and computational techniques to extract insights from data. So highlight the three key components, which are knowledge, domain knowledge, statistical and computational techniques. You can't be a data scientist without understanding the domain you are working on. You can be good in writing codes, but if you can't make sense of what data you are using or what you're working on, then you are not a good data scientist. Then you need knowledge in statistics to make sense of the output. So let's say you generate tables or figures, or you have predictions. Can you relate them can you give statistical meanings to the outputs and say, based on this, I'm maybe 95% confident that my outputs will be correct enough. Then you also need the computational techniques. So you need to know how to write codes or even use the existing softwares to be able to analyze or utilize data. So we want to at least go through the landscape of data science. And in the previous definition, at least I've covered a bit of it. But from this figure here, I hope you can see my cursor on the left. we see that data is everywhere and we can generate it from almost everything, ranging from roads, phones, social media, weather, and climate. And in this, we generate what we call big data. But for us to understand the data, we need data science. Data science doesn't come as a standalone discipline. You need some knowledge in maths and statistics, some knowledge in computer science, some knowledge in in the domain, and also a bit of software development and machine learning. So we'll talk about this intersection in the next few slides, but as you embark on this journey of becoming a data scientist, just know that it is something which people have been talking about as one of the best disciplines or courses in the 21st century. So at least this should motivate you, as much as it might be a hard field to go through. You might end up being in one of the best fields altogether. Okay, so I've talked about this particular intersection, but now I want us to go into details. So in the data science is the shaded one, but we see that it is not a standalone subject. You might need some little knowledge in data mining. For example, you have some data sets you want to extract from various websites. Then you might need some skills on how to extract that data. There's also aspect of visualizing or looking at the data set you extract. There's aspect of data management or what we call data processing. Then you also need some skills in AI and machine learning. There's also aspect in pattern recognition and statistics. So this is just some of the disciplines which, at least as a data scientist, you need some little bits in it, or you can decide and specialize in one of them, but at least you still need skills in other aspects. Okay, so this is the first activity I would like us to go through, which is, as a data scientist, which of the following skills do you think are important to you? So you just need to type pauleverywhere.com or pauleverywhere.com/sigu139, and then respond to the question. So I'll just go switch my tab and see whether you are able to see the screen. Let me share the screen. I hope you've been able to type that. So once you type it, you should be able to see some question. Let me activate it. Okay, sharing. Okay, so I think once you activate it, you should be able to see such a screen, and we can see at least there are some responses. So you just need to type this on the screen and then respond.
Some are asking for the link again.
So the link, I'll just put it on the chat. Okay, I'll put it on the chat. So I think we can see at least majority think that maybe what they need is the analytical or analytic skills. Then we have also a good number indicating that they need problem solving skills. None thinks that we need communication skills. We also have those who think that at least we need to be curious about what we do. So I'll just stop sharing this. You can continue sending your responses, but we can go back to the slides. So. Okay.
Steve, there's
So-
someone with a question. I don't know whether you'd like us to take it before you move to the next session.
Sure.
Beryl,
Yes.
Beryl, you can unmute and ask your question. Beryl Mungai. Beryl, are you there? Okay, fine. We can proceed. Sorry.
So this just relates to the questions or the question we've looked at. But what I can say as a data scientist in this particular field, in no order, you might need to be an all-round person. So you need a bit of domain knowledge to be able to at least understand what you want to talk about or want to analyze. Then once you do your analysis or once you make sense of data, you should be able to communicate your finding to the people or to the policymakers. As part of the communication, you should also be able to present your finding. One of the things which most data scientists or technical people struggle with is the ability to communicate the finding and ability to put into writing what you've worked on. Then you should be curious. Data should excite you, and you should, once you see data or once you have results, you should be able to question every bit of your results, whether correct or wrong. You should be able to know, why is this correct? Why is it wrong? If it is correct, then how correct is correct? Or if it is wrong, what is the potential solution? Is it that I don't know how to do it, or can I get solution from somewhere else? Then you should be able to at least have some analytical skills to be able to do the analysis. Another bit of it, which is very important, you should have problem-solving skills. So once you are presented with the information or the data, are you able to translate that information into problem and at least come up with some hypotheses on how to solve or come up with a solution. So in the past, maybe 10 years ago, what we thought of data science is just having some knowledge in statistics and being able to do some traditional analysis, or being able to do some data manipulation, parsing, scrapping, and data formatting, and being able to at least visualize some data using various tools. But currently, what is important is being able to be creative. So mostly data science problems needs you to think outside what you're used to. You should be able to creative, and as per Albert Einstein, if you can imagine something, then maybe you solve all part of the problem or halfway it is solved. As he says, imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. If you can imagine something, then you are able to think about it. You are able to at least have part of the solution as you think through the problem. So as you think of becoming a data scientist, know that there is aspect of it which involves being able to be creative and imagine what you can do. There's one problem I'm working on, which is building some kind of codeless platform for machine learning and AI. Every time, like if I just sit alone, I just think of how well can I improve this, maybe this bit, how well can I maybe make the data upload page be more friendly. So because it is something I really want to do, every minute I have to think about it. And that's how, if you're interested or you're curious about being data scientist, you'll be thinking about your problem and how to solve it.